For over 3 years, a large Danish-led group of scientists from 14 European universities has researched, dissected and discussed such issues as what will the agriculture of the future be like and what will Europeans be eating in 10 years' time. In this series of documentaries, we have followed in the footsteps of the researchers and focused on the upheavals that will change rural life forever. They may look innocent and attractive in the fields, but they are actually a threat to the climate.
Vi skal have kød. Jeg mener, 2 gange om det er ren forurening.
European researchers are discussing the consequences of our liking for meat.
If we look at what the environmental implications, in particular of our meat consumption is, it is radical.
We have to face up to a future in which we eat less meat. In some places, this has already begun. This is a town which has a meat-free day every Thursday.
I think it's an issue that is really alive now.
Perhaps it will become the norm in the not-too-distant future to eat synthetic meat.
Final goal is to make something like this.
Or perhaps we in the West can learn from the Japanese. They eat lots of fish and very little meat, though what meat they do eat is of a very high quality. This is restaurant Umami in the center of Copenhagen. Here they serve a variety of Japanese specialities.
Jeg forelsket i det japanske tradition, og jeg har altid været imponeret om den måde, at de respekterer et stykke råvarer.
The restaurant also serves the world's finest steaks of Kobe beef from Japanese Wagyu cattle. It's rumored that Wagyu cattle are given beer to drink and receive massages. This exclusive delicacy is served in fine restaurants all over the world. Our head chef here has difficulty in obtaining this costly specialty. But now he's had an idea. Perhaps this meat can be produced in Denmark.
Selvfølgelig skal vi have det. Selvfølgelig, hvis japanerne kan gøre det, og de kunne gøre det de sidste 400 år, så hvorfor kunne vi ikke gøre det?
He's contacted the sales director from the meat processor's Danish crown to see if he's interested in the idea.
Karsten, det skal du smage for fanden. Ja. Det smager det bare.
Ja, fuldstændig. Det er bare ikke lige bedre.
Det kan ikke være rigtigt. Vores gode venner og samarbejdspartner, Francis, han skal om på den anden side af jorden for at importere det her kød. Det kan vi også i Danmark.
Meat consumption has increased dramatically in the Western world. Eating habits have changed in line with increased prosperity.
Vi fik kød 1 gang om ugen, når jeg var barn. Det var luksus, at vi fik en kylling om søndag, eller et stykke bøf.
Experts are in no doubt that our increasing meat consumption poses an environmental problem.
Take the climate change and environmental impact there. I mean, here on the globe, I mean, a person shouldn't be emitting more than maybe 1 ton of CO2 and so on. That would be the max. I mean, the beef that is an average person in Denmark consumes emits between 1 and 1.5 tons of CO2 per year. I mean, this would certainly not allow us to eat all of the meat that we're currently doing.
Jeg vil gerne have kød med i børnehaven.
Jeg har det svært at forestille mig, at fra i morgen stopper vi alle sammen at spise kød 2 gange om dagen. Jamen, vi kan ikke stoppe alle mennesker at spise kød. Det er derfor, vi skal takle opgaver på en anden måde. Og det synes jeg, vi skulle begynde først og frem igen til at smage top kvalitet produkt. Hvorfor starter vi ikke derfra?
Er det ikke flot? Jo.
Perhaps an emphasis on quality rather than quantity is the way forward to reduce meat consumption. By eating meat of the very highest quality, just a small amount would be sufficient.
Det er en helt anden verden. Det er så godt sammen. Er det ikke flot?
The distinctive feature of Japanese Wagyu meat is its extensive fat marbling, which produces a very intense flavor.
Altså, hvis vi har den rigtige race, og vi har det rigtige foder, så kan vi lave det fuldstændig magen til.
At present, this super beef is mostly enjoyed only by rich gourmets.
Men bøffel er der, hvis de skulle servere i restaurant, og det er over 1000 kroner.
Hvis vi som virkelig skal have mange til at få glæde af det, så er det jo simpelthen for dyrt til dagligdags forbrug, eller endda bare til almindelig lørdag sammen med familien. Projektet går ud på at lære noget af det og få det over i det, vi sælger meget af, så vi løfter det utrolig meget til det niveau, vi lige har smagt. Der er hårdt arbejde. Nu skal vi først lære, hvordan man gør. Ja.
The head chef and the director from Danish Crown have taken a research trip to Japan to discover the secrets of Wagyu cattle production, which rumor has it involves the cattle being given beer and massages. The Japanese are very proud of their cattle, and their history goes back many hundreds of years. Today, the production of meat from Wagyu cattle is a huge business in Japan.
Hver dyr, der kører forbi, det er 400.000 danske. Det er en Mercedes, de lige handler om.
Will the Japanese let us in on their secret?
Do you know anything about the breeding?
Alas, they hold their cards very close to their chests.
De var ikke så glade at få, at vi kommer på besøg.
For our two Danes, it's crucial to discover whether the cattle really do have to be given beer and massages to produce these wonderful steaks.
They are doing this. Yes.
Today.
Maybe.
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 Der er et hemmelighed et eller andet sted. Men japanerne, de ser ingenting.
Sorry. I can't.
Det er kompliceret.
The Danes have to leave the Wagyu abattoir in Tokyo none the wiser. Perhaps a visit to a Japanese Wagyu cattle farmer will bring them closer to solving the mystery.
Well, I think the first thing is that in society and in general we start talking openly about it. That we're talking about that meat consumption and much of the other livestock consumption, our food consumption, actually has negative effects on the environment. Because so far, I mean, we haven't really been talking about this. And if we don't,
aware.
And if we don't talk about it, I mean, of course, consumers don't react.
Meat is a great CO2 emissions offender, with meat production being responsible for 1/5 of all greenhouse gases, causing global warming. Beef production is the worst offender, producing 3 times as much CO2 as the production of chicken meat, for example. Not far from Brussels, in Belgium, lies the town of Ghent, with a population of 250,000. Ghent is in many ways a very ordinary large provincial town with a university, an IKEA store and an old town hall. But even though this looks like a completely normal Thursday, in fact Thursdays in Ghent are rather special.
Veggie day? Veggie day.
In all the town's public institutions, in schools, day nurseries and at the town hall, only vegetarian food is served. Ghent has made an official decision to make Thursdays meatless days.
It's certain that we are consuming too much meat in the West, and what we are trying to provoke as a city council that there are more places where they are talking about it within school, within companies, within enterprises.
Lunch will soon be served to the municipal administrative staff. The chef has a new challenge. Today's main course is to consist of falafel, a dish made with chickpeas, served with a vegetable sauce and rice.
It was a great challenge for me because I'm not used to make vegetarian dishes. I'm not a vegetarian myself, so I tried some things out at home for my children. Then we tried it here, and we discovered it was a success. People like it. People are getting used to it now.
I think it's okay. It's healthy not to eat too much meat.
And now I am here because it's vegetarian and it's very nice to eat.
In the town schools, children too are having to get used to meals on Thursdays with no meat. Today, they'll be served asparagus soup and vegetable lasagna.
First, they were not all really enthusiastic because they didn't know vegetarian food. And then they found out that it can be good.
Schools have had to put climate change and CO2 emissions on the school timetable to convince the pupils.
Heel lekker.
We talked about it a lot in class, and I think it's an issue that is really alive now.
Ik vind het een goed idee, omdat het is beter voor de mensen, de dieren en het milieu.
The Belgian Vegetarian Association EVA, which came up with the idea of meat-free Thursdays, is now working at extending the weekly vegetarian day beyond the public institutions.
I think in the end, everybody will see that it's a good thing to eat a little bit less meat, and even if not for the environment, then for health or for animal welfare or for the people in the third world, it will become an absolute necessity. And what today is still strange, tomorrow will be very normal.
The town's IKEA store has adopted the scheme. Here, its 400 employees are served vegetarian food in the canteen every Thursday. Today, it's pasta with tomato sauce.
We want to implement this because it fits perfectly in our ecological way of thinking. And when this gets a good evaluation, we will convince the 5 other IKEA stores in Belgium to follow this example.
Before long, the customers in the store may also have to give up their traditional meatballs in favour of vegetarian dishes.
I hope, of course, that all the IKEAs in the world will participate, maybe in 2-3 years.
In the rest of the town, it's up to individuals to decide whether they eat meat on Thursdays or not.
I'm having pasta with some vegetables, yeah.
I have only soup tonight.
Of course, people are still free. There is no police controlling what people are eating.
Chicken. So, I'm not a veggie.
The people behind the initiative certainly hope that the people of Ghent will accept their responsibility for global warming and eat less meat in the future.
Our aim is that within 4 years, 80% of the people would participate in a vegetarian day a week. We are expecting that in the near future, things are really starting to change.
Some of the scientists who study the effect of animals on the climate have felt obliged to alter their own lifestyles.
Myself...
The truth.
We have actually cut down on our meat consumption after I've sort of come to know what the truth of it all is. But I come from a culture, I come from a family and so on, where we do also like very much meat. So I have difficulties cutting it further down than these 300-400 grams per week.
So once a week you're eating meat?
No. It's 2 or 3 times. But you don't need to have so much meat on your plate.
Also, the Mediterranean diet, I mean, the traditional one is not that based on meat consumption because it was too expensive, simply.
I eat it often got here.
Japan, there's a breakthrough on the way in the search for the secret behind the Wagyu steaks.
Now I would really like to know a lot about the feeding.
The Danes have found a farm where the cattle breeders are happy to explain.
Yeah. It's very interesting what's in the feed. No beer.
No beer.
De får ikke øl.
Hvad med massage, det er det samme så?
Well, they are brushing.
Brushing, but it's not massage. It's brushing.
Ja. No beer, no massage. Så det, jeg tænkte nok, det var bare en god historie. Jamen, jeg tror ikke, vi kan vride meget mere ud af det her.
Nej.
Meget optimist.
Jeg lærer utrolig meget, synes jeg.
Jeg tror mest, det er landmanden, der får en pilsner. Ja.
The mission to Japan has been successful. Now it's just a question of returning home and getting production started in Denmark. Søren Vester, a cattle breeder from Viborg in Jutland, has been selected to take responsibility for raising the new Danish Wagyu cattle. Together with his wife, he's come to Copenhagen to taste the expensive steaks. This is a unique opportunity for Søren Vester to get involved in production for a niche market with the highest possible prices.
Jamen altså, en Wagyu-bøf, den koster 750 kroner. Kiloprisen, det er jo 5 gange 750, så det er jo i princippet 4.000 kroner for en kilopris, jo. Tak, det ser lækker ud. Og fast det er lækkert og saftigt, ja. Det er helt ufatteligt.
Quality before quantity. Perhaps this is the way forward. But the question is, How much difference will it make if we in the West cut down on meat consumption if the rest of the world begins to eat more meat in the future? The increasing wealth in gigantic nations such as China and India will lead to millions of people wanting more meat. Is there actually anywhere in the world where all that meat could be produced? Yes, there is, in Brazil.
Cheers.
Things are going well in Brazil. This enormous country can probably produce everything needed at half the price. Fertile fields stretch for miles and miles. Brazil has an expanding economy. The Minister of Agriculture has good grounds for giving his staff a pat on the back. Big smiles are evident at today's press conference, where he's presenting the latest results for agriculture. The graphs speak for themselves.
The line of increasing, the world needs to be fed. A lot of countries in the world don't have the space of land that Brazil still have to expand their agricultural frontier.
One of Brazil's strongest cards is its enviable climate, which allows the possibility of 3 harvests a year. Meat production has soared. Today, there are 210 million cattle in Brazil, and the number is still growing.
E a grande jogada nossa do clima tropical em relação a vocês, que aqui não cai neve, geada, frio.
Det er selvfølgelig klart, at brasilianerne ser det her som en mulighed for øgede indtægter osv. Det vil vi gerne. Problemet er jo, at en sådan produktion er forbundet med temmelig store miljøbelastninger.
I look forward to the 10-20 years from now that Brazil can increase our commercial trading. I think this will be the mission of Brazil. China, India, Africa, these countries and the world will need more. We're still increasing our production.
Hvis vi skal det der stigende kødforbrug til livs, så kommer vi ikke udenom, at vi er nødt til at betale en afgift på en eller anden måde, en ekstra pris for det miljøskade, som en sådan produktion giver.
Cattle breeder Søren Vester has left Viborg with a precious cargo in the boot of his car. It consists of fertilized eggs from Wagyu cows, which he's received from abroad. These are now to be implanted in a herd of dairy cows that will act as surrogate mothers. It's taken 6 months for Søren Vester to obtain the fertilized eggs. The Japanese are not keen to export their valuable genetic materials, but Søren succeeded in finding a source.
I 1970'erne der blev der simpelthen smuglet Wagyu-kvæg ud af Japan. Der er ganske få rundt omkring i verden.
Og de er så kommet direkte fra USA via Tyskland.
Det er nogle rigtig gode embryoner, vi får hjem fra USA. På den måde her, så kan vi også få noget af det bedste genetik.
Vi skal have tøet de her æg op.
The Jutland farmer has teamed up with one of the most experienced vets in Denmark.
Vi kører dem op et sted mellem 35 og 36 grader.
Der har vi så stamtavlen. Den ene, det er Shidosha. Nu er det så japansk, og om det er udtalt det rigtigt. Og den anden, det er Kasakura 101L tyr.
Det nu ligger ægget jo altså inde i det lille strå her. Ja, det skal jo ud og ligge helt ude i enden af livmoderen. Nu lægger vi et. Den første Wagyu i Danmark, hvis den ellers vil vokse.
Ja.
Skulle vi have haft champagne.
Now there's nothing to do but wait to see if the project will succeed. 9 months later in the cowshed, the waiting is over, and the head chef and the Danish Crown Director have been summoned to Viborg to see the first newly born Wagyu calf.
Det her det er jo ligesom været sådan en dag, vi har ventet på. Det er dag 1.
Jeg glæder mig rigtig meget. Jeg næsten hele tiden, jeg tænker på det.
Min lille Bambi. Ja, næste.
Det er jo altså næsten som at få sit første barn. Altså man var jo sådan set helt rørt.
Man bliver sådan lidt barnlig og lidt stolt og lidt, der er jo lidt eufori.
The next calf is already on the way. What the head chef and the director don't know is that they are going to have to lend a hand with the delivery.
Den er for godt. Bliver det du rigtigt? Den ligger på ryggen, kalden. Jamen, så går kalden jo til ind i moren. Altså det værste for en kvægopdrætter, det er jo altså, at det skal gå noget galt, ikke? Karsten, hen på siloen derhen, der ligger 2 stykker reb. Det ser jo drabeligt ud, men altså, når det ligger rigtigt på forlemmerne og et tykt, blødt stykke tov, som vi har på, så sker det absolut ingenting. Ja, kom så bare ned, ikke med den. Francis, prøv lige at hoppe herover og hjælpe Karsten. Så var det rart lige at have Karsten og Francis over at hjælpe. Og sådan et par kontorfolk, de er jo lidt forsigtige, hvad det angår. Og man, nu må vi... Yes. Så, lige så vel. Fint. Og mor er stolt. Yes.
The basis for a whole new meat production enterprise of the highest quality is now standing up on wobbly legs.
If we're looking at total
Meanwhile, the European researchers are busy trying to predict what the meat market of the future will be like. Will there be huge environmental taxes added to the cost of beef? And how will we tackle the increasing demand for meat?
Because the market is still going to be out there, and with some of the regulations that will also come into place, I think, at some point. This will also drive technology and innovation to make meat that has much less emissions, even artificial meat or whatever, I mean.
Synthetic meat, it sounds like science fiction, but it's become a reality here in a Dutch laboratory. At the University of Maastricht, scientists have succeeded in getting meat cells to form in a nutrient liquid. Even though production of synthetic meat is only in a very preliminary phase, the implications are far-reaching.
I am imagining a scenario 15 years from now where you go to the supermarket and you have the choice between a natural grown piece of meat and a artificially grown piece of meat. They look the same, they taste the same, they're sort of the same price. Maybe the natural grown meat has increased in price because of eco-tax or whatever. And it will also, of course, have labels similar to smoking packages. You know, so much CO2 emission has been emitted for this product. You can think of all sorts of scenarios that might change the perception of the people for these type of products.
The laboratory meat isn't much like the meat we know. It's white, as there's no blood to give it the familiar red color. The greatest challenge will be to get the meat cells to form a steak composed of muscle. This will require that the cells get strengthening exercise.
The final goal is to make something like this. It will not be easy, but it will be doable, I think.
The first aim is therefore more modest, to produce something resembling mincemeat.
Eventually, this under the microscope looks the same.
I don't trust it.
I like real meat.
But maybe it's a bit chemical because it's made in a laboratory.
No. It can never be the way normal meat tastes.
On the other hand, if eventually you can make clear that this is better for the environment, that you need less energy and less water and less land space, eventually people will see that it's not really a sick idea.
I follow that argument, yeah. But I still want to see it first.
It's better for the climate, I guess, because there are no animals.
Less heating of the earth.
Less gas.
Depends on how the taste is. If it tastes the same and it's better for the climate, then maybe. But depends how it tastes. I would try it, though.
In Viborg, almost 2 years have passed, and the first Wagyu bull calf is ready for slaughter. His diets included grass, carrots, and root vegetables. And even though the Japanese Wagyu cattle are not usually served beer, Søren Vester's cattle have been given a dietary supplement that's something like it.
Jo, det er masken fra bryghuset. Før der røg masken rent faktisk på lossepladsen, og det er jo kanon godt foder.
In addition, Søren has prepared a special fodder mix to help the formation of fat marbling.
Den der specielle foderblanding, som vi giver, det holder vi tæt til kroppen. Så det bliver jo også en lille fabrikshemmelighed indtil videre. Det er en guldkalv, og jeg tror godt, han selv ved det. Han udstråler en vis selvtillid i hvert fald.
He has obtained a scanner which may be able to give an indication as to whether the diet has worked as intended.
Der så låser vi scanningsbilledet. Vi kan godt se, at den er fuldstændig nistret som en sukkerskål over det hele.
It looks as if the fat has distributed itself as it should. Now it's time for the last journey to the abattoir.
Jeg vil hælde op, hvis det var mig. Han vejer jo nok 600 kilo, tror jeg. Så det er jo sådan en lige... Ja, det er lidt ondt, jeg skal have den første sæde.
After hanging for 4 weeks, the meat from Denmark's first Wagyu calf is ready to be shown to the press. National newspaper journalists, magazines and various TV stations have come to the abattoir to be first with the news.
Men ikke rigtig øl.
Ikke rigtig øl, nej. Det skal gå ved beruset hele dagen.
The meat is to be assessed according to the Japanese 12-point scale for fat marbling.
Vi skal ramme middel. Vi har simpelthen brugt så meget energi på det. Vi skal op i den bedre halvdel. Det vil eddermame være pinligt, hvis vi skærer den op, og sådan siger, jamen det var jo ikke noget særligt. Og det kunne jo ske. Det er jo meget let ske. Og så håber vi på, at vi kommer op i god, og så skal vi altså op og se en klasse 5-6 stykker.
The classification will determine how much money Søren Vester will get for his calf.
Det er en klasse 5, og det svarer til, at den er over middel efter japansk skala, og det kan Søren være stolt af. 75.000 inklusiv moms.
For dyret?
Ja.
Det begynder at ligne lidt. Ja.
Så var vi ikke i exceptionel, men sådan lige til at tage de sidste helt vilde begejstring, så skal vi jo derop. Altså, vi skal jo lave verdens bedste oksekød i virkeligheden. Vi stod i hans køkken, det er 4 år siden, og nu har vi slagtet det første dyr.
Og Francis var med til at tage imod de første kalve, der blev født i Danmark. Jeg var ikke overrasket hjemme i min stald.
Det kommer til at sprede sig i Europa.
But excuse me, but this Kobe beef, will that save the climate?
If we want to have meat every once in a while, I mean, I would at least want to have it of some high quality that actually tastes a bit, instead of, I mean, just having some sort of lousy standard.
Last test for the meat is at restaurant Umami in Copenhagen. What will the customer's verdict be? Every Dane eats on average around 250 grams of meat per day. If we are to limit the emissions of greenhouse gases from meat production in the future, the researchers say that our meat consumption should be cut to around 1/3 of that amount.
Det er et fantastisk stykke kød. Det er virkelig komprimeret og velsmagende, så smagsløgene bliver mættet, og opleve, at vi kun kunne spise en tredjedel af, hvis man bestiller en stor bøffe til stedet, ikke også?
Heller mere er det virkelig fede, men så er mængden måske lidt mindre.
Det synes jeg da, at man skal købe en kvalitetsbøf og spise en gang om ugen, og så have grøntsager og fisk resten af ugen, ikke også?
For 4 år siden. 2 år siden. Nu er vi på vej at tænke lidt anderledes. Det håber jeg. Det hele kan ikke ske fra det til dag. Det tager sin tid, og det har taget lang tid for at få ting til at ændre sig.
Nu er vi i hvert fald europamester i oksekød. Japanerne er foran.
Kødsmag, det har vi. Sådan, stor opgave. Du skal fordoble marmorering.
Ja. Mere fedt. Rigeligt fedt. Ja.